in my mind, the pandemic is um, associated with the severance of the relationship to self
Mm,
and how that has affected us mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. The tremendous amount of fear and
mm.
insecurity and unworthiness. That's the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
That's the real pandemic.
yeah.
This thing that people call a pandemic, I heard about it coming in the 90s. I heard about it coming
Mm.
in the prophecies, and some of my elders at that time, and whom are still my elders, um, were talking about, oh, there's this disease coming, and I hear these stories, and I thought they were fascinating, and the things that attached to the stories, and but I didn't know I would be alive to be a part of it.
Mm.
And so when the pandemic came, I thought, wow, you guys, what are you all freaking out about? This is a great spirit of change.
Yes,
There's
Mm.
nothing
exactly.
to fear, right?
Yeah,
So the pandemic is fear, right? And it's not this change that we're going you spoke exactly. We are in an initiation stage of humanity as a whole, leaving the last phase of human evolution of mental emotional stage, being prepared for the next stage of unity, the spiritual stage of human evolution, unity and oneness.
hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of Dreamy Dialogues. It feels a little while since we did a recording, but we've had a really great flow of episodes and interviews going out to the world and really fantastic feedback as well. And as always, we have fantastic guests, going to have amazing conversations, and I'll throw it to you, Kasia, to introduce today's guest.
Yes, today we are very honored to have with us Wolf Martinez, one of the Dreamark actually wisdom keeper, and we just gonna dive right in for your story, Wolf, of like how did you end up being wisdom keeper in the Dreamark?
Um, Rosie reached out to me, and we actually spoke about this recently. I don't know how she found me. She doesn't remember that either. Probably a friend of a friend. She lives here in Santa Fe, as do I. And she reached out and asked if I would be interested in being interviewed for this project that she was putting together. And we did that, I think, a couple years ago. I think it was a couple years ago, maybe a little longer. And we've just I just so fell in love with her. We just, the connection was so beautiful. And yeah, that's how it all started.
Yeah, Rosie's a fantastic person, and
Yeah.
some of the impact the DreamHawk has had on the community already is really, really phenomenal. And we're gonna have a play later on in this chat with some of the animals, and we're gonna draw an animal like we do every episode from the codex and kind of see what comes to us with that. But I think it'd be really great to kind of go prior to the DreamHawk and just for people to hear a bit more about you, Wolf, like any of your backstory like to talk about, but really, I suppose it's sort of bringing us up to meeting Rosie. Like, what were some of the narratives and the life experiences that when you then met Rosie, there was that synchronicity and timing to work together on the dream arc. It'd be lovely for the viewers and the listeners to hear a bit of your backstory, if that's okay.
Oh,
Go
wow.
wherever you want to take us.
Yes, of course. When I was a little boy, I was like 5. It's the first thing I remember. It's my first memory, actually, seeing a ghost walking down the hallway toward my bedroom, waking up in the middle of the night. I heard this sound, and then I saw my bedroom door was open, as I think a lot of kids sleep with their doors open. And I saw this apparition. And in my mind, Casper, the friendly ghost, was coming to see me. And I was just so elated and excited and so happy. And the next day my parents said, there's no such thing as ghosts. I'm like, I know what I saw. And that began a lifelong inquiry. This kind of experience was not uncommon when I was a child. I'd see and hear them often, and despite what my parents and the elders and the church told me, I knew what I knew, and I searched for answers, and and a couple years later. Uh, the Spirit spoke to me so clearly and said, the answers to my questions lie with my indigenous or my native ancestors. And and that just turned on another light, another inquiry. I wasn't raised in these um, native traditional ways. I have Diné, Navajo, and Ute ancestry, and my family wasn't my family didn't know anything about those traditions. My great grandmother was Diné on my mom's side, and my father also had ancestors. And so I really started inquiring about that at a young age. And in my early teens, around 13, I left the church. And you know how synchronicity works. I made that decision that the answers were not sufficient to my questions, and it didn't make sense to me. And lo and behold, a woman whom was a dear friend of my mother's from high school, they'd known each other for many years, reappeared in our life, and she claimed to be a psychic healer and said to me that the spirits love me. And that was the first time I'd heard somebody really affirm what I was feeling. Not that I was feeling the spirits love me, but I was feeling the spirits, and she said what she said, and so that began a relationship in which I was studying with her and learning from her and attending, some classes and stuff that she was teaching and receiving healing work from her. And um, that lasted for many years. But, you know, then as I got to be, 15, 16, it was not cool to hang out with my meditation teacher. It was more cool to go and get high with my friends.
Mhm.
And that those years of finding oneself, difficult years for a lot of kids and myself included, and drugs and alcohol led me into a dark place ultimately over some years, and into a place of losing my will to live. I never lost interest in spirit. I just didn't give it as much time as I had when I was younger. And another thing I didn't really put together, I didn't realize that as I was experimenting with marijuana and alcohol, those were my primary drugs. And thankfully, thank goodness I didn't, fall into harder things. I mean, I experimented with many things, but um, I didn't realize how these things were closing my connection,
Mm.
experiences that I had prior in seeing and witnessing, feeling and hearing and knowing the spirits really close to me. And at the age of 29, after I had made a decision to end my life, going into that dark, bottomless pit of despair, I never went to a therapist, to a counselor. Um, I never went that way. Probably because at the age of 13, I was, became familiar with the psychic healing and the healer, and that's just the kind of doctoring that I knew and grew up with and trusted, and had experienced some miraculous healings in my early years. So I trusted that more than I did Western medicine. So I didn't go that way. And again, as I look back on that, I probably would have been labeled, put a stamp on my forehead of depression or um, addict or alcoholic or whatever. But those things were never imprinted on me, and so I never attached to those kinds of labels. But I did read a lot about Native traditions and spirituality. Literature was my only access up until that point. And a friend who knew that I was interested in Native traditions invited me to a ceremony. I was living in Manhattan at that time in my life. I grew up in Denver and moved to Manhattan when I was 25. And at 29, um, a friend who knew that I was interested in Native spirituality and shamanism and stuff like that invited me to a 4-day ceremony in upstate New York. And everything inside of me screamed, yes, yes, yes. I had to go. And it wasn't, I wasn't thinking, to save my life. I was thinking to finally get in touch with my ancestral traditions, to be finally become familiar, having direct experience, having ceremony, sweat lodge I had read about, and meeting a medicine person. Um, I went there, and the very first night they asked us to be drug and alcohol free for 4 days before arriving, and I just instantly said yes without thinking about it. And then after I hung up the phone call, I was like, 4 days. I
Yeah.
hadn't been sober in 4 days in 15 years at the age of 29. And but that still was like, okay, this is the most important thing. I have to do this. So I did that. And that very first night, those spirits that I had seen growing up were came and lifted me up and took me into the sky. And it was like a family reunion, and I was laughing and so full of joy and tears of joy. And that was how that 4-day gathering began. And went into the sweat lodge. We went every day for 4 days, and I really had found, if I had come home, it was home. And people in that dark, bottomless pit of depression and despair, people who have decided to end their life, there's a sense of not belonging. There's a sense of, you know, not knowing why I'm here. And it's beyond that. It's just like, no, it's a convincing, there's a convincing that I don't belong. I don't want to be here. And so to feel at home, I'm talking about a level that was deeper than anything I experienced before. And that feeling was like, wow, okay. And really opened me up to curiosity, to a sense of adventure. There was a realization that there was a self to be in relationship with, and I hadn't really realized that. I could relate with myself. Like, what? For me, it was all, external, relating with other people and trying to figure that out, which is uh, futile. Until we look inside, right? Until we start having this relationship. And my life completely changed. It did a complete 180. I went back to the city. I was, as I said, living in New York City. I never picked up marijuana. I quit drinking. I didn't quit drinking or doing drugs. I had no interest. And quitting, that's a very distinctive thing there because it requires tremendous effort
Mm.
for people, right? I had no interest. It was clear what I had been doing to put myself into that bottomless pit, and it was clear I did not want to go back there.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, wow.
And so I devoted my life to these ways. I met a teacher in Lakota tradition. Shortly after that, I became initiated. I gave my life to these ways. I realize, I don't know when I realized this, but I realized it, maybe a few years later that, my prayer had been about wanting to know these practices of my ancestors. And, the door wasn't opening until that dark place. And, some traditions teach us how the darkness is the place of transformation, right? The darkness is the place, a very shamanic place. And, I didn't know how to relate with the darkness prior to that. And it was something I avoided and was afraid of. And that's why we drink and do drugs because we're trying to avoid something, right?
Yeah, yes.
And it was in that place that spirit it was spirit waited for me to need
Mhm.
the medicine, to take me to the medicine. And that's how I became familiar with the medicine ways and became initiated. And that was more than 30 years ago. So over half my life, more than half my life, I have been following what we call the red road, which some people refer to as a spiritual path. My elders spoke of it as it's the traditional path. And I really like that distinction. It makes sense because to say it's a spiritual path is to imply that there are other paths that are not spiritual. And to say it as a traditional path is to remember that the spirit is in everything we do and is everywhere. And there's not, a path void of spirit. It is everywhere. We just have to open our eyes to realize and remember or communicate, seek to know and connect. And, in our tradition, we wake up to sing the sun rise. We have a song for everything. We have a song
Oh,
for stages of life, stages of day. We have song for preparing food. We have song for various emotions, forgiveness and crying and celebration and sadness and so on and so forth. And 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 in this way, the spirit is involved in every part of the day.
so like everything is welcome, basically.
Everything is welcome, ultimately,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Everything is welcome. That famous Rumi um, poem, the guest house. Um, welcome, welcome everything that shows up at the door, treat them like a
Yeah.
dear guest.
Yeah. Offer them a cup of tea.
Including the darkness and the fears, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly, right? Because in that place, we realize that, well, the creator of all things, creator of night and day, creator of warm and cold and light and dark. And the dark is also here wanting us to evolve, to wake up and evolve. And people often use that metaphor of the chrysalis and the caterpillar and the butterfly and the womb. The sweat lodge is the womb of the mother. It's not a comfortable place, but it is a place where our life changes, and it's a significant time in life, those times in life, oftentimes around death of a loved one or something, something that significantly happens, is preceded by confusion or doubt or insecurity or lack of self-love, and until we decide otherwise. And thankfully, millions of peoples around the world for millennia have held traditions and ceremonies and songs and wisdom to help us in these times.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so beautiful, Wolf. You completely like took me into the journey of your story. And there was like and songs and such a deep wisdoms from you already. Listening to you, it was I feel like I was recognizing the pattern in myself, and this is why I love meeting people here in the Dreamy Dialogues, but also just in life, because everyone's got such an incredible story, and your story is amazing because when you were telling your story, I could see those initiation that happened for you, and that moment when you, as a teenager, and I feel like a lot of us can relate, like you kind of get lost in a little bit of on purpose in a way to be then found, and it's like your ghost story is amazing and actually touches me deeply because I remember as a 9-year-old I also saw a ghost, and I'm such a deep sleeper since I was little until now, thank God. And but I remember being woken up by exactly what sort of you explained, and I screamed because I got scared, and my mom came, put the light on, and that was it. But then the story is in the family of like that, oh, I always seen the ghost. And when I was little, I was very intuitive, very connected to energy, to the spirit. And then, as you were saying, your story for me was very similar. When the teenage time came, I just wanted to hang out and drink alcohol with my friends and smoke and do some other bits. So it's your story is so phenomenal because I think it contains sort of like how what we go through when we come to this life. It's almost like it is that sort of pattern, and then you experience, as you mentioned, maybe a loss of loved one or some sort of challenge because it meant to squeeze you so much, so then you crack open. And what in the dream arc and jinkies, there's like the core wound, which means that there is this wound in us that wants to be cracked open, because from that, when the light beams out, and all your story, I was like seeing all these patterns and all how it actually was unfolding. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's so many, and I mean, there's so many more. Maybe I'll over to you. What
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, like Kasia, it was, yeah, beautiful, and thank you again for sharing that very personal experience. I think there's so many different ways I'd love to take the conversation. Where you paused, it felt like there was that healing for you, and I know from a couple of chats we've already had, and you've sort of inferred as well that you've then dedicated your life to these traditions and rituals, and essentially supporting others to find healing and to reconnect with their ancestry and their health and fulfillment in this plane. So I'd love in a moment to move to sort of how you went from your healing to some of the things you've been doing the last 30 years in partnership and collaboration and supporting other people. So that would be great to hear in a moment. Obviously, with the dream arc, it's very much about animals and the sort of symbology, as well as our dog's barking in the background now. He's getting involved right on cue. Yeah, there's sort of around that animals. Obviously, your name Wolf, it's an animal name as well. So I'd love us to weave in a bit around animals as well. But would you be happy to sort of continue that story in terms of how you've moved more into service after your personal journey as well?
I mean, it was pretty early on. Um, I don't, time and and as time goes by, memory. And it's all an illusion anyway.
Time is in itself a little bit of illusion
But
anyway. So.
Yeah.
but it was pretty early on. I had this knowing, this, I mean, if the sweat, if these traditions, if the things that I was being exposed to, I was also receiving shiatsu from an amazing shiatsu therapist who was very connected to spirit, and that also was part of the whole process of change. I've always been interested in body work. Like I said, when I was 13, I was started getting healing work at that age. And I also started studying shiatsu at the same time that I became initiated. So I was seeing the wisdom of the Orient, of the Japanese medicine, and I've seen the wisdom of the indigenous peoples in North America, and these two philosophies really saying the same thing in different languages and different practices, but really touching the source. And and for me, that was a realization, that the source was talking to these peoples on opposite sides of the earth in a time when there was no, global communication, not in like we have today, but clearly there was global communication
Mm.
because these wisdom keepers were communicating with the same source. And that was a very strong realization early on in my apprenticeship. It was like my first introductory shiatsu class and hearing the things that were being said, and I was like, okay, I'm graduating from this school.
Mhm.
And it was also about knowing that if if it can help me, if this can change me, it can change anybody.
Mhm.
Knowing who I was and where I came from, anybody can do this.
Have you got any particular memories of a person or a moment that you were able to bring this way of life, this philosophy, whatever you want to name it, but how you were able to support them in transformation as well? Is there like a particular memory that you could share?
Last weekend,
Love
the
it.
the freshest memory.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I had a 4-day retreat here. It was a small, very intimate handful of participants. They all came with their intentions and their prayers. One guy, it was his first time to participate in anything like this. And he was, kind of holding his intention back, he wasn't really going for it.
Mhm.
And he was, kind of playing it small. And I was like, that's not what you're here for.
Mhm.
What do you really want in your life? What do you want at this time in your life? And as we dived into this exploration of, what was ultimately, in his heart, he's also been in some despair and depression and feeling lost in the darkness. And we came up with, what was revealed, what he really wants. He said, well, that just seems too much to ask.
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
ask it,
Mhm.
go for it, go for it. I mean, we're talking to the infinite source of wisdom here. We're talking to the
So
source of
big.
love and creation, where you're coming here to dive into some big medicine. Bring bring what's in your heart, what's true.
Mhm.
And, because we're the only ones that limit ourselves, right? There's infinite possibility, but by playing it small isn't serving anything, isn't serving ourselves or anyone. And so he did, he found made him a little uncomfortable, but he went for, went into that ceremony, these ceremonies that we held this weekend with those intentions, as well as I'm just using him as a metaphor, but I'm
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
everyone in the circle. This weekend was a weekend of breakthroughs. And everyone left changed in big ways. And this one guy, he left with clear knowing what he had to do. He arrived with no knowing how to move forward. Left here with clear knowing and dove right in, wasted no time.
Wow,
Amazing.
wonderful.
Yeah, as you say, that it's always helpful to sort of hear a particular example for us all to grab onto what happened. But as you say, it's really a metaphor for what we're all going through. And I think on that macro level, it feels like we've had darker times in some ways in recent years. Obviously the pandemic's the one everyone points to, but I feel like in general the world is undergoing a big shift and change, and there's definitely challenges and difficulties on a large scale. And to your
I
point
say something.
earlier,
I want to say something to what you just said.
absolutely, yeah,
You said the pandemic, and I wanted to say, well, which one are
yeah,
you
a
talking
pandemic, yeah, yeah,
about? In my mind, the pandemic is um associated with the severance of the relationship to self
mm,
and how that has affected us mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. The tremendous amount of fear and
mm,
insecurity and unworthiness. That's the pandemic.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
That's the real pandemic.
yeah,
This thing that people call a pandemic, I heard about it coming in the 90s. I heard about it coming in the prophecies, and some of my elders at that time, and whom are still my elders, um, were talking about, oh, there's this disease coming, and I hear these stories, and I thought they were fascinating, and the things that attached to the stories, and but I didn't know I would be alive to be a part of it.
mm,
And so when the pandemic came, I thought, wow, you guys, what are you all freaking out about? This is a great spirit of change.
yes,
There's nothing
exactly,
to fear, right?
yeah,
So the pandemic is fear, right? And it's not this change that we're going you spoke exactly. We are in an initiation stage of humanity as a whole, leaving the last phase of human evolution of mental emotional stage, being prepared for the next stage of unity, the spiritual stage of human evolution, unity and oneness.
Mm.
And um, again, I was hearing these things way back when. So when this, you know, sickness came, what they're calling a sickness virus, brings change.
Mm.
And the prophecies also said, say, many will fall in the process.
Mm.
Um, and it's part of the process.
Would
It hurts when it's people you care about and love. And the importance is to not fall into the trap of fear,
and
to
victim,
stay
yeah,
centered and grounded no matter what. Stay in trust
That's
no
such
matter
an
what.
important message. Thank you for
mm,
sharing that. And on that note, would you uh, have some sort of idea or practice or anything that anyone who's listening could do daily when they are gripped by that fear, by that, all of these
Well,
emotions?
if we're doing a daily practice, chances are lessened that we will get lost in the fear. If you are in a daily practice and really devoted, really commit, discipline, that is the road to freedom. Some people say spirituality or whatever. Discipline to our practice, our ritual, whatever speaks to one's heart. Um, that is the path to freedom. You have to be really committed, devoting your life to that time where you sit every day, however you sit or walk or whatever your practice is. In my tradition, I light a candle, I smudge, I have the water, I'm standing on the earth or sitting on the earth. I have the four elements as the basics, and then I begin a dialogue and I talk to the four directions. I talk to the fire, the water, the wind, and the earth, and the above and the below. I talk to my ancestors by invoking them, and then I talk to them about the things I wish to talk about. My loved ones that I know that are suffering or struggling or needing medicine physically, mentally, emotionally, and I talk for myself too. And anything that I see I'm wanting help with at any given time. And it doesn't mean, oh, I'm feeling a little scared today or a little insecure today, or I'm feeling a little sick today. No, it's also, I want to explore more joy and laughter in my life. Or I want to see, you know, mm, mm, I want to know more about generosity or humility or respect or reverence. It's just like we have the codes of ethics that we live by, and sometimes I refer to the codes of ethics as I have for many, many, many years. And you can never fully understand the laws of respect. I mean, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it never ends. But if you think, oh, I know what respect is, well, then you've just closed a door because you think you have it figured out.
It's
But
all
it's
about being curious as
Yeah, I was
well.
gonna say curious.
Curiosity
Yeah.
about life and what's coming. And yeah, I love also when you first start sharing about that, you said that you have in your tradition, you have song for everything. I love this because that's bringing the joy and the playfulness of like a childlike, into life every day.
Mm.
It's like the changing frequency by just singing, let alone obviously the words, the importance of the words with each of, I'm sure your songs are also very important, but just to making that sound, to put your throat into vibration, into like, I think I feel that that must be healing in itself of you and everything around you and all of us, because we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
if we have a voice, if you can talk, you can sing. And you don't have to sound, like Celine Dion or Whitney Houston or whoever your idols are. You don't have to sound perfect, but you have to sing. We have to sing. We're a unique animal in that we have a unique voice that we have been given. And this is a big part of the reason why our traditions are oral, in the knowing that this is a sacred thing. And we have to use it in a sacred manner. And if we don't, we're going to hurt ourselves or others. And that means if we use our voice in anger or too much or too little, if we're not talking at all, we're going to hurt ourselves. If you're talking too much, you're going to hurt yourself. There's a balance.
Mm.
And the song, I mean, we sing for everything because everything is singing for us. Everything is singing for us. There's a song, and you don't have to have a voice to sing because the silence is also very important, right? I feel that the song, part of the purpose of the song is to bring us into the stillness and the silence.
Mm.
Mm.
And in there, then we can hear the earth sing. We can hear the stones sing. We can hear the trees sing. If you really slow down enough, the
Yeah,
song is never ending and always being sung.
that's wonderful. That reminded me of whenever I sit with our doggy outside in a garden, for example. Slightly different angle of that, but it's all of our senses. And I love when he sniffs the air, because that's the song brought by the wind that comes as an information to him. And I can see how he gets so like excited and then curious in his face. And I sit with him and I sniff as well. And I'm like, I want to know what you receiving now. I want to know the same thing what you just got, because who knows where the wind came from. It could be all the way from Africa, or it could be from another place altogether. And I absolutely love it. I feel like that's another sort of version of what you were just explaining. Well, for me, that just came to me as an image. So I just had to share it, because I feel like that's a nice way of receiving as well. We can receive with a lot, we can receive the messages. I feel.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't know if you had any questions for Wolf around animals. I don't know if you'd, from your sort of thoughts prior to it, and then we'll move on to the codex in a moment.
Sure. Well, one thing is that in a very dreamark manner, I was asking, I went for a walk and I was asking what sort of animal can help me bring our next guest into the podcast. And as I was walking in the evening, just, clearing my head, a bat flew around me twice, So I went home and I dive in and I checked the bat and
in the dream
in the Dreamer Codex and the message, and it was quite a while ago. And then there was all sorts of amazing things about having you, Wolf, in our Dreamy Dialogues, because apparently Rosie had a dream about a wolf. So she then brought you to our attention, but I at the same time had a dream about a werewolf, actually, but it was more like a wolf. So it was like, and I didn't even know she had it. So there's like two things really, like, because then I start researching, finding some information about you, and in the dream arc and the wisdom keepers and the wisdom you share there, you mentioned that bat is one of your animals that you actually really love to work with. So I would like to ask about that, since the bat brought us together in a way, and we were already connecting in the dream state before that, which I love, because this is again another state of that we all talk, and communicate. So if you have any story, and if you have any, why bat? Why do you like working with bat?
I have a couple things I want to. First thing, what do you get if you teach a wolf to meditate?
A Zen
A
wolf?
werewolf.
Yeah, of course. There you go. That's brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
A werewolf.
Yes.
You said that, it took me right back to that.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's what it was in my dream.
Yeah, there we go.
It was wolf, but aware.
What do you recall in looking at bat medicine, and what did you pick up?
I mean, bats in general, they have like such a interesting vibration, because they're obviously connected to like the vampire and the darkness. But actually, in the dream arts,
So we're
sorry?
wolf.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we're
exactly.
wolf. In these monster stories, a lot of our medicine animals are
Yes,
put into darkness, into the category.
yes,
Bat, wolf, and raven. Those are so commonly associated with vampirism, and it's like, we're conditioned to be afraid
yeah,
of, these sources of great power and wisdom. And yeah, I mean, not that the animals make us powerful, but when we talk with them,
yeah,
um, access,
Mhm.
medicine better, gifts and medicine. I like those words,
yeah.
power.
And with the bat it's incredible, because for me, I've always, since before I even knew DreamArc, way back, I was fascinated about their ability to echo, like, their way of moving around. They listen a lot.
Sonar.
They
Yeah.
sonar, the way they navigate their life, and they're nocturnal animals, so they come in that other time of the day when everything is quieter and different, and than the busy morning with the light. So for me, it's like it's an amazing animal, and I think it in the dream arc and the oracle, the bat represents the deep listening, like of if I'm correct. But I feel like this is good, from memory when I was reading about it a while ago. It was about that. It was about deep listening, to yourself, to the world around you, to the signs. So yeah.
Couple
Well,
of things.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry,
go
were you
on. I was going to say a couple of things that came to me about the bat was, yeah, the sonar that like what we put out comes back again. There was something for that in there for me, and also they sleep upside down, and there was something about seeing the world from a different perspective. They were just two thoughts that came to my mind.
Mm.
This year in the Chinese calendar is the year of the wood dragon, and I was born in the year of the wood dragon. I turned 60 this year, but from the very beginning, when I realized that this is the year of the wood dragon, I knew this was a big year for me. And I mean, I knew it all. I mean, I turned 60, so it was like, oh, it's a milestone. And I didn't go into, a big old, like dread, I'm going to be 60. There's
Mhm.
a little bit of that, but not a big thing, right? But
That's the
then I also
human part
realized,
of you.
right, exactly, like,
Going, no.
senior citizen soon.
Spirit part of you was like, just chill, just relax.
Well, no, the bigger part of me was this is Wood Dragon, and this is a monumental time, right? A monumental year. And Dragon, Bat, um, uh, I see some similarities with those also. Um, and I see the bat as maybe um, uh, as the dragon has become extinct, um, the bat remains, and I feel there's a connection, to that. And I've been seeing a lot of bat as well, and the things that you just spoke of, and what I can add. I love what you guys both said about bat. What I can add is, it is an animal that also, like an owl, it sees well in the dark. The misconception is bats can't see,
Mm.
but they can see. They have big eyes. They can see in the dark. And yes, the as you were talking about the sonar, the putting out and the big ears and big eyes and intuition is
Mm.
big, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another thing that I can say about bat is it is a great helper to see and hear and know what is the medicine in the dark times.
Mm,
Mm.
There's a certain level of magic
Yeah.
associated
mm,
with the bat, right?
yeah.
I love what you said because the magic, I mean, dragons, yes, and maybe the bat is like a reminder of for us not to forget the dragons, not to, which that probably would not happen because they are such a big energy dragons that you probably can't forget them. But maybe the bats are little reminders of like bringing their essence a bit more of the
Mm,
dragons, as you mentioned, and also seeing when you were sharing about this that bats can see that well. Maybe they see different layers that the different layers that we can't see. The whole as we talk the spirit world the world that our eye is missing and somehow inviting us more to to feel about how would that be to see differently to see like a bat
mm,
in the night in this sort of vision.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I just said I made reference to the dragon being extinct, and my dragon immediately was like, "Huh."
Yeah. Little fire.
We're not extinct,
Yeah.
is what the dragon said.
Oh,
We have made ourselves invisible, but we are
wow.
not gone.
Mm,
Wow. Oh, that gave me goosebumps. Yes, love it. I love this.
cool.
Speaking of the fun and dragons, do you
Yeah,
want to?
the last part of the fascinating chat we've already had, Wolf, and thank you already for so much
Yes.
wisdom and sharing. But we're going to evoke the oracle of the dream arc. So I'm going to share my screen. Hope it's,
We
there we
just
go.
we're just gonna like try to just tune in a little bit, the three of us and anyone listening later at any time, to the oracle that is part of the dream arc, and it's such a great place because it's such a fun thing to do, and to tune in like what animal is coming forward for us to bring us some sort of message. If you're okay with that, Wolf.
Yeah.
Are you up for some
I
fun
love
with
it.
that?
Is there any intention you'd like to share before we click the oracle, Wolf?
What is the message and the wisdom that would be most beneficial for the collective right now?
I love that. I love that.
Beautiful.
Okay, that is a perfect intention. So I'm going to click now. Whoa! Wow, 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 wow.
This is just beautiful.
That is unbelievable.
For anyone who's listening only, not watching, we
Yeah.
just draw a wolf.
Would you
Wow.
like to read it?
Wow.
You go for it.
Okay, I'll read it. So I am the wolf. So long your people have dreamed of my soul. As dog, our doggy's still
Such
barking in the background. I have entered your lives to lie in your homes. As wolf, however, I remain alone and free, ranging among my people, deep within the forests and plains of the world. I am the great longing of your soul. You long to belong. You long to be free. Wow. I can't believe that came up. That is phenomenal.
That's beautiful.
Is there anything you'd like to share that's coming to you, Wolf?
About wolf?
About Wolf?
I mean, I have surges of energy running up and down my spine and through my limbs and fingers and toes and out the top of my head right now. And to see that the response to the question, what is the wisdom and knowledge that would be most beneficial for the collective right now?
Mm.
And, so as I'm tuning in, more to the spirit as opposed to, you know, um, mm, teachings of, what wolf stands for that have been passed down. I just want to tune into the wolf itself, the spirit of the wolf, and, uh, you know, obviously I love wolf so much and so grateful that this um, beautiful being walks with me in my life for my whole life. And my wolf is a white wolf. Um, and as I'm tuning in, what I'm hearing is, about um, um, wisdom, about seeking wisdom, not just outside yourself, but to develop that wisdom within yourself and to trust the wisdom within yourself. Listen to your gut, to your intuition, and trust in that. The head, whatever, if you have a practice, daily practice, come into the center. Come into the center. This is the center here, below the rib cage, above the pubic bone. This is the Milky Way, the center of the universe, and this is the home of our spirit. This is where our spirit lives. This is why all the wisdom traditions around the world, really emphasize the importance of being in the center and in the gut and listening to our gut instincts and when we're moving from here, we're really kind of not kind of, we're really walking in balance, you know. And as the wolf walks on four legs, I'm doing this motion as if I'm walking on the ground with four legs. The center is parallel to the earth, right? The wolf is very centered, not easy to knock over or push over. Rooted, more rooted, as are the four-leggeds in general. But the wolf is really in touch with um, intuition and wisdom. And so that's what I'm really getting in this moment. You know, what this is in response for the people is, you know, come into your center. There's wisdom already there in your DNA. And really, if you don't have a daily practice, develop one. What speaks to your heart, and really come home to the center, and you know, get the head out of the way, and stay humble. Humility is a big part of it as well, right? Um, the spirits, you know, many people feel this is a very scary time in history, you know, war and so much going on, especially in politics, but also especially in global change and environment, global warming, I should say. Um, and as I tune in and as I remember the teachings and the prophecies, I know that, as we touched on briefly earlier, this is a time of great change, great blessing, in initiation, and a, you know, true initiation is the time when we're facing death, which requires us to face life. If we're facing death, then we have to do that. We just automatically do the life review, right? And so we look in the mirror. Death is an illusion actually in and of itself. It's facing the mirror.
Mm.
I'm lost in a very rare moment. I'm lost for words. That was just phenomenal. And I feel like whatever we say is going to be hard to draw this chat to a close as
Mhm.
profoundly as the words you've just said. But it's really been an absolute pleasure, Wolf, talking to you today.
Yes.
I don't know if you've got any
Likewise. I mean,
final
again,
remarks.
I still have chills, you know, just
Wow.
surging through me, you know, like rivers of light.
Yes, what you share is just so profound, and really needed to be heard by myself, definitely, and I'm
Mm,
sure many other people, just to trust. And you know, like in Wolf and the Dream, I also said the belonging, so it probably smoothly closes from what you started your story
mm.
when you were searching for that belonging, and you know that makes us less scared. So thank you so much for reminding us of all this amazing truths about, yes, just, yeah, lost for words. So I feel like we leave it there because we just made such a beautiful, amazing closure to our chat today.
As
Unless there's anything you
important,
want to add.
as important as words are, you know, I've had some really tough teachers, loving, I mean, big-hearted and tough. And a couple of them have I mean, I touched on earlier that, you know, we're the only animals. We have this unique voice. Our traditions are oral. The importance of using our voice, our language, creates our life and our reality. It's so important to really refine and seek the words. Um, as one of my elders would say, you know, the medicine person doesn't say, "Oh, you can't, you know, I don't have words for that." No, the medicine person finds the words to bring the message,
Mm.
Mm.
and doesn't succumb to that, you know, oh, you can't speak the unspeakable. And there's truth to that too, but seek to find the best way that you can, the words, and through that is the wisdom and it's not just words, that we've been exchanging here.
Mm.
I mean, there's energy that has touched you, has touched me, is touching, I pray, everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
But something better than words is a song. And
Yes.
maybe we can end with
Would you?
that.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
just would you like to sing for us one of your amazing, beautiful songs?
So when I invite you to place your feet on the floor and to, sit with an erect spine if possible, to open your palms to the above, to take some deep breaths into your center, expanding your abdomen more so than your rib cage, letting the exhale just effortlessly go, let go of uh, the exhale without pushing or forcing or controlling. Just in the moment you've emptied, fill yourself up. And yeah, coming into this beautiful, quiet, still place within. And listening from there. Closing your eyes. Hey oh, 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 hey hi ah oh, hello hey, hey oh, hey oh, hey oh, hey oh, hey hi ah oh, hello hey. Tonka shela wopela yellow, ampetugile waka that was a song of gratitude.
Oh, wow.
And I say thank you, thank you, thank you to you for bringing me here and sharing this time. And yeah, so
Oh,
grateful.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Wolf. That was so beautiful.
my
Oh,
body's surging with energy now.
yes, great,
I was dancing
great.
the three of us around the fire, so that was so beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Yes, and we're here. We're bringing fire to this beautiful, beautiful everything.
Well, thank you for joining Dreamy Dialogues.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.